Okay, so picture this. A country that has everything. A government, an army, its own money. But if you look at a world map, it's not there. It's basically invisible. That right there is the absolutely fascinating puzzle of Somaliland.
I mean, it's got a government, its own currency, it controls its own borders. Sounds like a country, right? But for the rest of the world, it might as well not exist. So what is going on here? That's exactly the mystery we're going to unpack today.
So how can a place be a country and not a country at the same time? Well, to get to the bottom of that, we've got to go back and see how this ghost state even came to be. And look, this isn't something that just happened yesterday. We're talking about a story that goes way back to 1991. You see, while the government of Somalia was completely falling apart, just collapsing into chaos, the region of Somaliland said, nope, we're out, and declared independence. And for more than 30 years now, they've been doing their own thing, building a pretty stable place, completely separate from all the trouble down south.
All right, so after all that time, 3 whole decades on its own, does it actually act like a country, on the ground? Let's find out. We're going to run it through what I'm calling the unofficial statehood checklist.
So, what do you think makes a country a country? Like a real government that actually works? How about democratic elections? Its own army and police force? Well, check, check, and check. Somaliland has all of that. Seriously, they've managed to create a level of peace and order that, frankly, has been missing in a lot of that region. And on top of all that, they manage their own borders and even have their own money, the Somaliland shilling.
And hey, this isn't just me saying it. If you crack open a textbook on international relations, by pretty much any standard definition, Somaliland has all the stuff a state is supposed to have. Let's be real. On the ground, for anyone living there, it is a country.
Which brings us right back to the central mystery here. You know that old saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck? Well, if this place walks like a country and acts like a country, then why on earth is it treated like a diplomatic ghost?
So you'd think the case is closed, right? I mean, we went through the checklist, all the boxes are ticked, but this is where the story takes a really sharp, unexpected turn. The number is 0, a big fat 0. Not one single country in the entire United Nations officially recognizes Somaliland as its own nation. Think about that. After more than 30 years of running itself, of being stable, nobody, not one country, is willing to put it on paper.
Now, that doesn't mean they're totally cut off from the world. They've gotten pretty clever about it. Instead of having official embassies, which they can't do, Somaliland has these representative offices in places like the UK, Ethiopia, and even the US. It's a brilliant workaround, really. It lets them do business and talk politics without needing that official stamp of approval.
Okay, so this all leads us to the million-dollar question. Why? Why is the rest of the world just refusing to see what's actually happening on the ground? All right, here's the bottom line. It really comes down to 2 big things: precedent and stability. You see, the African Union, and honestly the rest of the world, is super committed to one idea. You don't mess with the borders that were drawn back in the colonial era. They're terrified that if they recognize Somaliland, it'll open a total Pandora's box. Suddenly, every separatist group across the continent might think, hey, if they can do it, why can't we? And that could lead to chaos, redrawing maps, and just completely destabilizing huge regions. So the world has made a choice. They've decided it's better to stick with the idea of a unified Somalia, even if Somalia hasn't actually controlled that territory for decades.
And this whole diplomatic game isn't just some abstract political debate. It has huge real-world consequences for the millions of people who actually live in Somaliland.
Just try to imagine this for a second. You want to go study at a university overseas, or maybe do business in another country, or even just visit your cousins. For someone from Somaliland, it's a total nightmare. Why? Because their passports aren't officially recognized. It makes something as simple as traveling an absolute bureaucratic headache. And the hit to their economy, it's massive. Because they aren't technically a country, Somaliland can't get loans from the big global players, places like the World Bank or the IMF. And that means it's incredibly hard for them to get the money they need to build things everybody needs, like better roads, new hospitals, and schools.
And maybe the biggest thing, Somaliland has no seat at the table, no voice in the big global conversations. They can't join the UN, they can't join the World Health Organization, so when the world is making huge decisions about things like climate change or global pandemics, the 6 million people of Somaliland, they have absolutely no one officially speaking for them.
This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? You can do everything right. You can build a peaceful, working democracy from scratch.
But when it comes to the world of international politics, that's just no guarantee you'll get an invitation to the club.
So, what are we supposed to make of all this? At the end of the day, the strange case of Somaliland really makes you stop and think. It forces you to question what we even mean when we use the word country.
This is what we can call the Somaliland paradox. It's this huge, gaping chasm between what's happening in reality, a state that works, and what's happening on paper, a place that doesn't exist. And it points to a really fundamental truth about how our world is set up. Being a country isn't just about what you are, it's about who agrees that you are.
And that leaves us with one last, really tough question to chew on. If a place proves for more than 30 years that it can govern itself, that it can be peaceful and democratic, who gets to be the one to decide that it isn't real? It's a question that honestly shakes the very foundations of the whole global system.